Greetings and salutations, travelers of the internet. Welcome to the Lit Roundtable. I'm Anna.
And I'm Joseph, and today will be your wise or not so wise mentors for today's audio adventure into all things storytelling.
Woohoo! Today's May. Which is crazy. How is it possible? It's already be May.
I know. It's already May 12th as of recording this.
How?
And it's going up. This is going up on May 14th. So
Very strange.
the month is going to be like halfway over. So wild.
Before we get too far into things, we do have a little...
housekeeping update.
I lost my words. Thank you. I was like, bonus. No, that's not right. It's not a bonus. This is a regular thing we do. We do have a new read-along book. The new read-along is Star Wars Queen's Shadow, which I'm very excited about. It's by E.K. Johnston. It's by Padme Amidala and the Handmaidens. So.
And when is that starting?
Next week, guys.
I was asking for them and for me.
Yeah, next week. The reading schedule is posted, so
Nice.
You should be able to get into that. It is a YA book, so it shouldn't be too challenging of a read, and it should be quite a bit lighter.
Yeah,
than
you
the
took the
popular.
word. Took the word right out of my mouth.
Yeah, so
Nice. All right. It'll be fun.
yeah, should be great.
On theme, because it was Star Wars Day.
Yes, this reminds me of a show I need to add to my list of things I've been watching.
It's probably the same show that I had on mine.
Anyway, Joseph, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about hoaxes,
Hoaxes. Ooh, very fitting.
which is a
For that
very...
Star Wars show.
So, hoaxes are a very specific kind of storytelling that are engaged in for a very specific reason, usually. Trying to convey a certain message that isn't true. Whether or not the person creating it knows it's not true, varies. But regardless. And we're going to be talking about two specific hoaxes today that we went over in my Frauds, Myths, and Legends class.
I was going to say, tell us why we're talking about these.
Yeah, from one of my anthropology classes. So these are both archaeological hoaxes, so you would call it pseudo-archaeology. And really, there are, the main reasons why these kinds of things happen. There's a list of reasons. So really, it can happen because people are after money or fame. It can happen because of some sort of nationalism, like we were the first people to discover this land, or, that kind of thing. It can happen because of racism, which, the racism and the nationalism can often go hand in hand. There's also religious reasons why hoaxes can happen, trying to prove certain things, that align with your religion, even if it's not scientifically accurate. And I'm not picking on any specific religion. I'm just saying in general, it has happened and can happen and does happen. There's also this romanticization of the past. Like, people want certain things to be true just because it's cool. And so
Sure.
like Atlantis,
Yeah.
King Arthur, Robin Hood, people want these cool stories to be true, so they try to make it true in these different, ways.
Yeah.
There's also the flip side of romanticization. There's the spooky factor. So people like the idea of this spooky, esoteric, past that the world is embroiled in. For example, when H.P. Lovecraft first published some of his stuff, there were people who thought that it was actually true. And wanted it to be real and true.
Oh, wild. Okay.
Yeah, so that is also, I feel smaller than the romanticizing group of people, but definitely a group that exists, the
Sure.
spooky people. And then there's just, sometimes crazy ideas come out of actually crazy minds. Sometimes there's actual, people who are not mentally well or have some kind of something going on, and they come up with ideas that are not grounded in reality.
Okay,
So,
so you mentioned like King Arthur and Robin Hood. I would not have personally classified those as hoaxes, but more as myths. Do they become hoaxes
well, yeah.
if people actually believe them?
I mean, if someone, what I mean is, if someone tries to peddle a sword and they claim it belonged to King Arthur,
Okay,
that
gotcha.
counts as a hoax.
For sure.
This is an
Okay,
arrow that was fired from Robin Hood's bow.
gotcha.
Hoax.
Gotcha.
The actual stories are folklore, like how Atlantis is like just like this legend thing, which isn't grounded in reality at all. It's just a cool story that like was circulating in the times of like Plato, in Greece, but has taken on a life of its own, So
Okay,
like just the story of Atlantis or King Arthur or Robin Hood aren't hoaxes, but like the way people engage with them
gotcha.
can turn into a hoax,
Gotcha.
So
Okay,
and that's how like the romanticization and the money making one can kind of blend together because it's the person who wants to make money taking
sure.
advantage of the person who wants to romanticize the past.
Sure.
And that will segue us beautifully into our first hoax of
Okay,
two
yay.
that we're going to talk about. So this is the Cardiff Giant.
I've not heard of this, as far as
I
I
was
know.
I was going to ask if you had. I would have doubted. I doubted that you had, not because I don't think you know things, but just because this is a deep cut.
More obscure. Okay.
Yeah. Basically, workers on a farm in Cardiff, New York, in 1869,
Okay.
discovered a stone giant that was buried underground when they were digging a new well on the farm. So they discovered this big stone giant that they believed were like fossilized or petrified remains. It looked just like a big stone likeness of a giant that had been like weathered and aged, buried
Okay.
underground. So the belief was these are the remains of an ancient giant, like what you would see in like the Old Testament. They believed it was like a biblical giant like Goliath type situation.
Okay.
The remains were put on display at the farm, and they erected this big circus tent, and people could come in
Uh-huh.
and pay an admission fee to come and see the Cardiff Giant. The general public could come see, anyone could come in, scientists came in and looked at it.
Hold on. What year did you say this was?
This was in 1869.
So is that kind of the time frame that we were seeing a lot of like
I mean, there weren't a lot of like
oddities
rules.
and attractions, like those kinds of things?
Right. So,
Okay.
P.T. Barnum
Yeah.
offered
Yeah.
to buy it.
Okay. 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 That's
If
that's.
that
I
answers
was
your
wondering if
question.
there was a connection in like timeline between those two things. So yes, that does in fact answer my question.
Yeah, P.T. Barnum, the famous circus man who was also sleazy, offered to buy the stone giant for his circus as an attraction, was turned down, and he then made his own replica of the Cardiff stone giant, which
Classic.
he then advertised as the real one. He claimed to have the real one and claimed that the one that they were showing was the fake one
You
or a
know,
replica. So
it's so sad that The Greatest Showman is such a fantastic movie
yeah,
that claims to be about P.T. Barnum. But
he's a
it
terrible person.
totally minimizes the awful things that he did as an actual person.
Yeah, he was bad. He was a bad person.
But the movie's so good.
The movie's amazing.
I
and the
wish
music is
it would
great.
have just been about, or like they would have just been like, it's not about a person, it's just this general concept.
Yeah. Just make it anyone else.
Right. Anyway, carry on.
So this was all the person who kind of masterminded this whole thing, his name was George Hull, and his cousin was the owner of the farm that it was found on. So Hull later revealed, like later that same year, that I believe it was the same year. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, he revealed later that this was, of course, a hoax. Scientists had been saying it was a hoax. They didn't believe it. Like, people who were educated were coming in and saying this isn't real. But, you know, the general public will believe kind of what they want to for the sake of this romanticization of the past. And, you know, there's religious ideologies and beliefs that go into it, and wanting to believe that this is the real remains of a giant. Basically, Hull revealed that he had once had a conversation with a priest about biblical giants. The priest defended the existence of giants and said that they believed that they were real, which is what you'd expect a priest to say, right? At least what I would think a priest would say. And then he got the idea, basically, to try to scam these gullible religious people. And he commissioned this statue to be chiseled in Chicago and artificially weathered to make it look ancient, and then had it shipped off to his cousin's farm, had it buried in the ground, waited a whole year, and then just like let things grow back where they buried it, you know, and then like strategized and made it so that is where the well diggers would dig for the well and find it.
Oh my gosh.
And then he made tons of money. I don't have the exact figure, and I don't know what it would even be when like figuring in inflation, but he made a lot of money off of this attraction, which you can actually still see because the Cardiff Giant is still on display in Cooperstown, New York. If you ever want to see it.
If there were pictures of it.
Yeah, there is still a display of it, even though it's a known hoax now. But
hilarious.
So yeah, that is one example of
disgusting.
A hoax that is used for money and taking advantage of people who are romanticizing the past. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I really want to see what it looked like. Because I want to see how believable this was.
You can Google it. If you just look up Cardiff.
I'm going to Google it really quick.
Cardiff is with a C and 2 Fs. Cardiff Giant.
Oh my. He's got a... It's anatomically correct, y'all. The first picture, it's like, holy moly. The dude is a dude.
Had to make it believable, you know?
I guess.
Apparently, when they were first carving it, he made them make it look a little more rudimentary because they made it look too much like him, like George Hull. They did too good of a job, and so he was like, no. Take away some of these details. Make it look a little more rugged, please.
They're like... Then, yeah. Sorry. Just looking at the pictures.
Of course, the scientists that were looking at it were like, the soil that it was dug out of, like the roots that are in the soil aren't like developed enough for this to be as old as you're saying it is. Like, this is just a piece of rock. This isn't remains. Like,
right. Like, how deep did they dig?
Right. Like scientists were pretty quick to debunk it, but you know, once something catches fire with the general public, it's hard even for scientists to be like, whoa, guys, it's fake. Relax.
Yeah. It's weird because a lot of the pictures on Google are, you have to, like, safe search is blocking them as explicit. Probably because of the anatomically correctness of it, but also because I think some of the pictures, it kind of looks like a dead body is being exhumed.
Yeah.
But it looks like a carving. Mm-hmm. It also is proportionately awkward.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I guess,
like,
in my mind, it's like...
the torso is very short.
Yeah.
And the legs are massive.
In my mind, if you're trying to, like, peddle it as an ancient race of human giants, like, the proportions, I feel like you'd almost want them to look bizarre, you know, just to make it seem alien. But, no, it looks strange, for sure. But,
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So that is the first example of a hoax that we learned about in our class. And next, we're going to talk about the Piltdown Man. Do you know anything about this one?
No.
Fair. This one is 1912. So
Oh, more recent. Okay.
a little bit later. This is when an amateur archaeologist named Charles Dawson claimed to have discovered ancient remains of an undiscovered human species near Piltdown, England. This is a time.
Maybe I have heard of this one.
Okay, so
But carry on.
This was during a time when, like remains of ancient human species are popping up everywhere, like Neanderthals being discovered and stuff. But people in England are like, "Oh, we don't have any of those." Like they hadn't discovered any of those fossils in England yet. They have now in modern day. And some in like the English Channel and in the water surrounding England, because England used to be attached to the continent, during that time in the ancient times. So anyway, but this would be the first time, allegedly, that fossilized remains from like Pliocene era, I think is what they were claiming, would have been found in England. The remains had a human-like skull, so like a really big brain case. Not as defined of a brow ridge. So it like had a human skull, but the jawbone was very ape-like. And scientists then were like really, really eager to try to find a missing link species between humans and apes, because this is like after Darwin stuff was kind of taking hold with like theory of evolution. We're still like figuring things out with that. And so people are really eager to try to find fossils like this, and so here it is. So this discovery, I say in air quotes, ended up misleading scientists for 40 years.
Oh my gosh.
Because they didn't have, like, there were some tests they could have done to determine that it was fake at the time, but those specific tests weren't done. It wasn't until way later. It wasn't officially debunked until 1953.
That's a long time.
When a very specific type of like chemical analysis, I think, could have been ran on it, and it was determined that those two, the skull case and the jaw, were from two different animals. So the jaw was that of an orangutan, and the skull was from a human from the medieval time period.
Oh my! Wait, so they found like an actual like legitimate.
Yeah. So they like desecrated the remains of a real person.
Well, that's crummy.
who actually existed. Right. Nice.
I mean, it's gross either way, but like. The fact that it was an actual legitimate find that was then ruined.
Yeah. So like the teeth on the jawbone, the lower mandible, were filed down to make them flatter and make them look more human-like. To make it look like, because when like we have a different chewing pattern than apes do.
Sure.
And so
we're not actually eating.
Like we will kind of
stuff.
We can grind side to side, and our teeth wear down more flatly than that of an orangutan. So they had to file them down to match like a human bite pattern on the teeth, which they did, and it fooled people for a long time. Also, the jaw was broken in the middle, so they could kind of like they could argue that it was found that way, but that it would fit together. Like they basically made it fit since it was broken. They were also chemically stained to make them look more ancient than they really were.
Wow. Very involved.
Very involved. All to try to be the first people to find the missing link, to prove a certain ideology. And so it's, or to be the first, to prove it, because they hadn't found a lot of the fossils that we have now yet.
Sure.
back in 1912,
Sure.
So it took a long time for them to figure out that was not real. So by the time it's like 1953, everyone that was involved with the initial discovery is gone, right? They've all passed. So they don't actually know who was genuinely responsible for it. Like, of course, Charles Dawson is the prime suspect, but this is going to be really interesting to you, I think. The author of the Sherlock Holmes series
Arthur Conan Doyle?
is a suspect
What?
in this hoax
That's hilarious.
because he was heavily involved in it, and he like created entire stories about I forget the exact plot, but he basically wrote a story about like going back and interacting with these ancient humans that the Piltdown Man would have been a part of, and all this stuff. Like, so he was like encouraging this and making like money off of it, basically. So he is a suspect.
Well, that is
But
very sus.
it is sus. Or was he just taking advantage of, a alleged discovery? Who knows?
I mean,
But
certainly could be both.
yeah, I thought you'd find that amusing.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it seems very on brand for him.
Yeah, for sure.
But, I can't say that I fault him either, because lots of authors do that, where they take something that's interesting that's happening in their time, and then they put a spin on it. So
Yeah. I don't remember the exact details on his story. I know that he was pushing really hard for it to like become a thing. It kind of piddled out. I mean, obviously you've heard of Sherlock Holmes, but you have not heard of whatever this is that I'm talking about.
yeah.
But yeah, so it's just fascinating. So yeah, the Piltdown Man is an example of.
Are there pictures of him, of it?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you want to look up pictures of the Piltdown Man,
I do. I want to
certainly
see this
could.
wacky jaw. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh. It's kind of impressive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it fooled people for a long time. I just think that a lot of them, really wanted it to be real because they really wanted to find something in their country, which is where like the nationalism
yeah.
comes in. This one wasn't, I really don't think this was about money making. This was just about like,
scientific discovery and pride.
Yeah, this is about hubris and nationalism and just wanting to find something. Which is like, guys, you don't have to make it up. We've got so many fossils now that you can go look at that are like legitimate. You don't.
Yeah.
All this does is hurt the credibility of other finds,
Yeah.
And this was like really. So this is like when this was found in 1912. There weren't. And like the Cardiff Giant too. This was before there was so many like rigorous steps that had to be gone through to verify something. It was much easier to sneak a hoax through under the radar in this time period. They also didn't have as many accurate tests that we have now to like date things.
Sure.
Or like determine whether or not this bone is from the same species as this bone, So there's a lot of reasons why these kind of slipped in and didn't get called out sooner or discovered sooner. But at least the Cardiff Giant was relatively quick, but the Piltdown Man especially. That's a long time.
Well, a stone man versus a skull are pretty...
Right.
Yeah.
So...
Evidence... I was going to say evidently different, but I mean in like the evidence sense.
Right.
So...
Yeah, and I mean, you see hoaxes like this that pop up even in modern times, but they're much more like sideshow attraction type things where they basically take like the skeleton of a baby monkey and fuse it to a fish and they call it a mermaid, right? They're like, this is a mermaid. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like those still happen, but they're much more easily identified now as fake.
Sure.
So yeah, hoaxes. Definitely a type of storytelling.
Man, I want more. Tell me more.
Well, those are the two I had prepared.
Okay.
So, no. There are certainly others.
Sounds like a really fun class, honestly.
It was very fun, Yeah, it's so interesting to see like how people thought things were done, and then you discover more information and you get like a more clearer vision of what the purpose was for a certain archaeological find. Like we actually have a pretty good idea of how the pyramids were built. It wasn't aliens.
What?
Like we have like
What?
documentation of like the worker schedules, and you can see the evolution and the like development of the pyramids based on date. Like the early pyramids are way more wonky looking. Like you
Sure.
can see they started off at one angle and the angle switches halfway because they had to change the angle or like the type of material. And so like and they're much more rudimentary. Like the earlier you go, it's not until like way later down in the developmental track of pyramids, like the Giza pyramids were peak pyramid technology,
Sure.
but it didn't just start there.
Yeah.
But regardless, people insist that it was either aliens or Atlanteans that helped the Egyptians.
Interesting.
People actually think that Egypt was an Atlantean colony.
I had not heard that. That's
Yeah.
very funny.
Yeah. And that's why there's also pyramids in South America and like the mound builders of North America, because clearly these non-white races of people were too dumb to do anything like that. And this is where the racism comes into play, folks, with the hoaxes. Their technology was too rudimentary. They couldn't have done it. It was Atlanteans or aliens. But no one says anything about Stonehenge, really. Well, some people do think that Stonehenge was built by aliens, but I feel like people focus way more on pyramids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, that's my soapbox. Stepping
Wow.
down now.
Wow. You got me a little fired up. I'm going to take a deep breath and...
Yeah, it was a very fun class. It was very interesting. The book for the class is literally called Frauds, Myths, and Mysteries. If anybody wants to look it up. I only have the digital version that I rented, but I'm considering just buying it to have the physical copy.
What was the reading, like, how readable was it?
The author, I mean, it gets technical in some areas, but the author does his best to make it very accessible. Like, it's entertaining to read, for sure.
Cool.
He gets pretty sassy.
I love that.
In a lot of it, which is very
Love
fun
that.
to read.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, for sure. So,
Cool.
yeah, that's it for what I've got for hoaxes of the archaeological variety.
I love it. Thank you for preparing. What a fun episode for us.
You're so welcome. So now, since I've talked a lot, you can start the, what have you been up to? What stories have you been indulging in and engaging with?
Well, okay, here we go. I finished The Pitt. Did we talk about The Pitt last time? I'm doing watching first.
Okay.
I can't remember if I talked about this or not, but The Pitt is basically it's a medical drama meets 24.
Oh, you did mention this. Yes, you did.
Yeah.
You did.
My goodness. It's very well done. It will really get you in the feels. In like a very raw, human kind of way.
I didn't think of that type of show when you first said it, because when you say The Pit, all I can think of is Parks and Rec when
no,
Andy's
nothing
character
at all like that.
Sings that song about falling in the pit.
Yeah, no.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
It's not a comedy.
Right.
Blake and I are still watching Delicious in Dungeon, which we just watched the episode where they come across the illusion monster, and it's pulling from Damien's character, Laios's memory.
Yeah.
And Marcel's hair is different in all of them. I thought that was really funny. Since we've talked about, I only bring it up because we've talked about Marcel's hair.
Yep.
Still making our way through Futurama. Blake's daughter and I watched Wish Dragon on Netflix.
Ooh.
Which is very good.
Fun.
It's basically Aladdin. Right?
I don't know.
Reskinned, I think.
I haven't seen it.
Blake and I are still watching Invincible. We're like halfway through season 2. Holy moly. Finale of Yellowjackets happened since the last time we talked. That was crazy. I've been watching The Handmaid's Tale.
Ooh, gross. Not in like
Which-
a... Continue, sorry. I have emotions.
So do I. It's very dystopian. It's very disconcerting how I've never watched it until now. And the only reason I started watching it was because I was getting a lot of ads for the finale season that's coming
Right.
out. And I was like, I am kind of curious about it.
Yeah.
And now it just makes me very sad because some of the things that happen, like you watch a modern version of the United States fall apart, and some of the stuff is just a little close.
Yeah, it hits too close to home. I also this, here's my hot take. Ever since I learned that main lady in that show is a Scientologist, it really kind of turned me off from watching her in anything. So
Yeah. Well, she's not likable. She's
Yeah.
not a likable character, even though she's the main character. In my opinion.
yeah.
But it does make it weirder to watch for sure.
Anyway,
I don't know if I'll actually be able to finish it or not. I took kind of a break and now I'm like, I don't know if I want to get back into it.
yeah.
Hotel Transylvania 2.
Nice.
Blake's daughter and I had a weekend where she and I were hanging out a little bit while Blake was doing some teacher stuff, and we watched My Neighbor Totoro.
Had she seen it before?
No.
It's so
And
cute.
it's so cute, and she made us watch it twice that day, which was amazing.
Oh, I'm glad
but
she loved it that much.
She loved
That's
it.
so good.
The only reason that she even found out about it was because she discovered the unfinished puzzle that I have of My Neighbor Totoro under my couch and made me pull it out. And then she asked me what kind of Pokemon that was. And I was like, oh, I guess it does kind of look like a Pokemon.
I love that.
And I was like, it's not a Pokemon. It's a spirit of the forest called Totoro. And like the way she says Totoro, like she rolls the R. It's so cute.
Totoro.
Yeah. And then so she and I watched it, and then Blake got done with his school thing and came home, and she was like, Dad, we have to watch Totoro. So we watched it.
So stinking adorable.
And the Totoro sandwich, the meat of it was Ponyo. We watched Ponyo because it was the next recommended thing, which she also really loved.
Nice.
So, we also watched Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back.
Cool.
Evolution. I put Evolution on there, but I don't know if that's part of this or not. Anyway, I've not seen any Pokemon movies, but now I've seen that movie. And we watched some Pokemon Indigo League, which is a TV show. It's quite cute. Yeah.
Fun.
Continuing the Studio Ghibli adventure, we watched Secret World of Arriety. And, sorry, long list here. I've been watching the new Andor season, which is so unbelievably good. Don't want to give any spoilers, but there have been some character deaths that I did not see coming. One of them made me incredibly emotional early on, and then one of them almost made me laugh. Not in like a good way, but in like, I mean, like not in a like, haha, it's so funny he died, but in a like, wow, that is so anticlimactic and like upsetting that the last thing he heard was, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah. That one was wild for sure.
Yeah. And then Blake and I went and saw Thunderbolts, the new
Thank
Avengers
you.
movie,
I forgot about that one to add to my list. But we saw that too.
which was annoyingly good. I'm
man.
so ready to let the MCU go, but they actually pulled out something that was very good. So I have lots of thoughts about that. I don't know. we don't have time for it here. But
Yeah.
For reading The Poppy War, we finished it. It was good. It was a lot. Would recommend with trigger warnings.
Yes.
And I'm still reading The Power of Now. And then for playing Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, which is a lot.
It is. It's so...
It's like
It's a
way
bit tiring.
more than I was expecting. I was
Yeah.
expecting old Lego Star Wars and was like so excited for that format, but it's not.
It's way more open world, which is strange.
It's more like the Legend of Zelda games than I was expecting.
Yeah.
I was hoping for like the Legend of Zelda to be my like time suck game, and then this Star Wars saga I could like, or the Skywalker saga I could like
Yeah.
sprinkle in.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Still playing Pokemon Snap occasionally. I've almost beat it to my definition of beating it, which is 100%ing. Well, not 100%ing. Is max leveling all the levels. I think I have one level left. That's kind of a difficult one.
Yeah.
But and then Blake and I have started gamifying our sleep with an app called Pokemon Sleep. It's real silly. So you start
Okay.
it before you go to bed, and it's like a sleep tracker. And then when you wake up in the morning, you get to look at the Pokemon that have collected around you, and you get to like give them biscuits and try to catch them.
That's cute.
And then they can gather berries for your Snorlax throughout the day. It's very silly, but it's very fun. So
Cute.
that's what I got.
Nice. For watching for me, I started watching an anime on Netflix called Sakamoto Days, which is so stinking fun. I'm only like 2 or 3 episodes in, but it's about this guy who was like the world's best hitman, and he fell in love with a convenience store clerk and married her and quit being a hitman.
Oh my gosh.
But
Adorable.
he still like got these superhuman hitman things, even though he's like one of the things about him is that he's like, oh, he's so out of shape now, but he's still like, so it's like this big round Japanese man just doing like backflips
Oh my gosh. Incredible.
and like roundhouse kicking people and like catching bullets with chopsticks, and he's just doing all, and then he just goes home to his convenience store and eats cup of noodles
I love it.
to his beautiful loving wife and daughter, and it's just so, it's been so cute and wholesome, and I highly recommend it. Again, it's on Netflix. I think there's like 10 episodes or something like that. Like it's
Okay.
only like the first season, but it was just released in 2024, I think, so it's a recent release.
Cool.
So stinking cute from what I've seen so far. Hope and I were watching some of Castlevania, because Hope has not seen all of Castlevania, and that is also a good one on Netflix. Wheel of Time season 3 finished.
Oh,
I think
I did
that
start season 2 of that.
oh, nice. Season 3 is when things become. Season 3 is by far the best Wheel of Time season so
Okay.
far. Also watching The Last of Us season 2.
Oh my gosh.
on
Me too.
Max. Oh, you are too. Okay.
Yeah. I totally forgot. Yes, me too.
Nice. There was one that came out yesterday. We haven't seen it yet. We're gonna watch that
I
tonight.
haven't either. Ooh, me too. Now that I know about it.
I finished Andor season 2 also. Did you finish it?
I thought there were 3 more episodes coming out this week.
No. I don't think so. It seemed like
I'm pretty sure.
It seemed like they kind of tied a bow on it with this last episode. Oh, if they do, cool.
I think there's more to come. I could be wrong.
Well, I hope you're not, but I think you are. And that's okay. We'll see. For the 20th anniversary, Hope and I went to go see Star Wars Episode 3 in theaters.
I'm so jealous.
And it was so cool. We got to see Hayden Christensen's cute little message before the movie started. Love that man.
Yeah.
So wholesome, so fun. And we also did see Thunderbolts in the theater as well. So
Yeah.
that's been a good time. For reading, like you said, finished Poppy War, and I'm also still reading slowly but surely Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. For playing, I am... so now that patch 8 has come out for Baldur's Gate 3, I went in and like reclassed everyone in my playthrough with the new subclasses. So now I've got to like kind of relearn how to play everyone with these new subclasses. But that's been fun. Also been playing more Stardew Valley because cozy gaming.
Is that the one that we could visit each other if I also got it?
I think that is a thing now. It wasn't when I first got it, but I think they made that a thing.
Okay.
Also playing D&D, which is always a blast. I have not killed the party yet, but
Good job.
there's always next week. Were there times when I could have but didn't? Yes. Have I fudged dice rolls to save characters' lives? Yes.
Oh my. You're so early on, though.
I have rolled some... Well, these low levels are scary.
Yeah.
Like, they have such low health. And
Right.
if I roll too many nat 20s,
Yeah.
it's over.
It's just like Brennan Lee Mulligan and Matt Mercer always talk about how if it's... Like, if you have a good roll, but it will make the game not fun, then it's not worth it.
Yeah.
So if you kill someone on, like, game 2,
Right.
that's not very fun.
We have been doing some fun in-person board games with some of our neighbor friends here. We played... the previous week we played Betrayal at House on the Hill, and then this last week we played Castle Panic.
Nice. Classics.
Fun games, fun times.
Very good.
So, yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Love it.
Fun times.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing.
For sure. So I guess next week is going to be the first week of the new read-along.
Yes.
So tune in for that. And until next month, go read something cool. Go read about a fun hoax.
Do it, and then tell us about us, and tell us about not us. We're not a hoax. Tell us about it in the comments.
Good save. And we'll catch you next time.
You stole mine. Later.
Bye.